Hey, welcome back to another edition of Printing's Alive, the podcast where we discuss everything in the world of print for everybody in the world of print and really cover all kinds of topics. And today's topic actually is a pretty cool topic. I had Mark Joseph reach out to me not long ago because he had seen the podcast and he asked if he could put it up on his site. To be honest with you, without even looking at the site, said yes, because I let everybody put my stuff up anywhere they want because it's all about the exposure. But then I did go to the website, and the website's babyboomers.org. And I thought, wow, what a pretty cool website. I'm the tail end of Generation X, so borderline. So there's a lot of interesting things. But really, what made me, or what gave me more of an interest in the babyboomers.org was I started thinking about our own industry and how the printing industry is filled with way more baby boomers than anybody else from any other category below. And, when I look around the industry and at the aging population, I know people are sticking around because they don't really know what to do if there's anything to do after. And I'm pretty light on this right now. I haven't gone too deep with it, but the general idea and excitement that I got from the site was it offers up so many ideas, so many things to do, puts you in a really good place of knowing from health and relationships, from working, from entertainment, whatever. It's nothing other than a very general, well-informed site. In any case, I had Mark Joseph who had reached out to me, and then I reached out to him. So now we're even. We each reached out to each other. And just, Mark, tell us a little bit about you and tell us a little bit about, babyboomer.org, and then we'll just get into it.
Sure. I guess the real question is, why did we even start this site, babyboomer.org? And if you can think about it, our generation, the baby boomer generation, is as diverse as anyone before or after it, with a division in politics and diversity and religion. We've just got all these different things. But the one thing that baby boomers have in common is this shared, connected experience as we were growing up. Because, when we were growing up, we didn't have cell phones. We all had landlines. I had 3 television stations where I was growing up, and that's how I got my information. So it's a whole different world. So we've got this whole common shared experience. Here in the U.S., we went through the Kennedy assassinations, Martin Luther King's assassination, the landing on the moon. This has brought us all together. Birth control, that became widespread during our generation. We had to deal with Vietnam and Kent State and all those things that came out of our generation. We had riots in the streets here. But the one thing that brings us all together is music. If you think about it, you got Elvis and the Beatles, the Association, Three Dog Night. Look at you.
I just came back from 3 nights of the Grateful of Dead and Company at the Sphere.
Oh yeah. And we've got all these great movies that brought us together. Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, Jaws, or any really of the Spielberg movies, Animal House, Star Wars, The Godfather. This is our generation. We have so much in common. And so we thought that if we pulled together a site that had all these different things that could be relatable to baby boomers, whether it's music or movies, or whether it's retirement or travel or aging or Alzheimer's, or even playing pickleball. We thought it'd be a one place where we could all gather and get together. So what we have done, we have built the site based on experts. So right now we have 785 different contributors from all over the world who are the top of their field, with information for us. We have 450 different departments with all kinds of information in it. You got 167,000 pages. We got 146,000 podcast episodes. So we've put together all this together to create the site. And what's fun about our site is it changes every single day, because it's all the newest information, all the greatest things that all of our contributors are writing, that the front page and all the site changes every single day. So that's why we built the site, because we thought that this would be a great place for our generation to get together. What we found out is it's not where we thought our target market were baby boomers. It's not just baby boomers. It's their kids and their grandkids trying to figure out this generation. So that's what we're all about.
Wow, yeah, I thought when I first went on, I was just a little surprised at actually at all the different categories or columns that you had discussing it all. And then when we were chatting and you mentioned, not the baby boomers, but the kids. And then I thought, oh my God, that's amazing because there's so many different types of people out there. When I say people, I mean just different ages and how people act, what they do, their health, their ability to move around, not move around. If you're older, you could do more activities than if you're not not so able to get around. And the site just opens it up. And then the kids side, you're right. I think we also need a site for baby boomers in there, a section to understand your kids and what they do. Right. I was just listening the other day and we were baby boomers, like, what were some of the other things? And I'm borderline, but my generation at my tail end was doing it. We would ride our bicycles and be out on the street at night. We went places. We took the bus. Our parents never. I didn't even know what the word carpool was growing up. I had an orange bus ticket that was, I'll go back in time, 8.5 cents at the time. It's probably $3.50 to ride public transport now. Our parents knew who our friends were because they had to call the house as much as they didn't want to because there was no other way to reach us. Today, we don't even know who our friends' kids are, who the friends of our kids are, right? Because everything is on the phone, everything is a text. If you follow, you could follow them, but then they set up other places so you can't follow them. It's like a maze of how do we go around. So I really think it's great. Um, was there is there a main um, feedback that you get from people that go on the site?
Well, maybe it'd be easier for me to kind of explain how this whole site came together.
Yeah, by all means, great.
Because I wrote a children's book. It's called "I Don't Want to Turn 3," and it's a true story about my 6 grandkids. I wrote it during COVID, and so the reason that I wrote this book is that all these 6 grandkids I've got have completely different personalities, but the one thing they have in common is their sense of curiosity. When you think about when you were 3, 4, 5 years old, it's a whole different world that we're doing it. And so uh, what I saw was that their parents were so desperate to try to understand them, and that the toddlers, because it's about Jordan turning from 2 to 3, you know, learning the difference between me and us. So as I was promoting this book, out and about, it became very apparent to me that my generation, the baby boomers, were not really involved in a lot of the raising of the grandkids. 30% of us. That means 1 out of every 3 of us said, "Hey, I raised some great kids. Let them raise their kids. I'm going to go play pickleball." We may show up at birthday parties or something like that, but there was a real awakening for me that a third of us just don't care. We're living our own lives. And so I was lucky enough, I've got 3 other partners who kind of felt the same way. And that really was the start of why we built babyboomer.org, because we realized that our generation, the grandparents that we are, too many of us just weren't involved. And when you think about it, when it's all said and done, when you leave this earth, what do you leave? You leave your legacy. That's it. You can't take all the, no matter how much money you make, you can't take it with you. What is it that you leave behind? And so that's one of the reasons, key points of this site is wanting to make sure that all of us had a chance to figure out what is going to be our legacy. What are we going to do to help the next generation? Because like you mentioned, when we were growing up, we didn't have cell phones. You know, we didn't have remotes. I mean, for the television, I was my dad's remote. He says, "Son, go change the channel." You know, that's how we did these kinds of things. It's a whole different world now. And so I am convinced that this generation of kids, 0 to 10 years old, is going to be the greatest generation that we have ever produced. Because when you think about it, they come right out of the womb and they're on the internet. They got their cell phone. You know, that's how they're growing up. I
They
didn't.
might be watching it on the inside too. or
Yeah,
listening for sure.
right. I mean, I didn't get on the internet until I was 40 years old. So, it's a whole different world. So they are so smart. They're going to be so smart because of the information. But we, as the older generation, you know, your generation, my generation, we have got to make sure that these kids are rounded out. We got to make sure we take them out for the bike ride, like you were talking about. Going out and playing at night and playing, because otherwise, as you may have seen with some of your grandkids, people that you're around, they're on their cell phones. We got to get them off that. There's got to be a balance between all this great technology, which is going to make them the smartest generation ever, but then the reality of how do you live your life?
Oh, it's yeah, no, it's so true. And as you were talking about that, I was thinking back to my parents, it's exactly it. Mother was more around, but being a single mom, she was out working. Dad was around, but he was always at the office because back then, they had their own stereotypes of what the father did and what the mother did. But then when I had kids, I or my ex-wife and myself, we decided that we really wanted to be involved and have a better understanding of what it was, right? Because my parents were never at every one of my games or my events or anything at school, and I own my own business, and I was there all the time, and I missed a lot of dinners, but I never missed anything at school. The kids don't remember you and the dinners every night, because the dinners every night are generally some screaming and some food throwing because it's the end of every day, but it's all the events that people remember. And I always made it a point to do that. And I'll tell you something, back then there was no really carpooling. I don't think the word carpool existed in the same way that it does today with kids. Kids don't even take the bus to school because they're allowed to wake up at the last minute and then get a lift. um, but when my kids were younger and, they would started going out at night, and, we had to pick them up every night with all their friends. I remember a lot of the parents didn't want to go. It was a pain in the ass for the parents to get up and go out at night to pick them up at 11, 12 o'clock. And for me, I was like, you know what? I will do it every night. I don't even want to have conversations with the other parents, and I don't even want to hear the whining and the complaining. Why? Because you go pick them up. That was great time to be with your kids and their friends. I wanted my house to be where the kids came to have lunch and hang out, even though food costs $500 a week to feed 5 or 6 boys extra. I wanted them, if there was something, you could chat with me. So this is what happened. I would pick them up every night wherever they were from 12, 13 on until they could drive and beyond. And I would drive, and I learned, don't talk to them. If you don't talk to them, they forget you're there, and then they talk about the whole night, and you get to hear what's going on and what they're doing in the whole chatter, right? Then they get a little older, and I'm like, hey guys, it's midnight. You want to go for a snack before we go home? Oh man, yeah, man. Hey dad, your dad's the coolest. But I mean, yeah, I'm great. I'm the coolest. But more importantly, I'm building time with them. More importantly, I'm hearing and learning what they're up to, what they're doing, how they're talking. So one thing you don't want to do with kids is keep asking them questions. Like I used to ask my kid, we talk about kids and knowing one thing the kids today don't have that we had, and that's called street smarts. They have to ask Google or Siri what to do when they get into a situation or before they go somewhere, right? And a perfect example about even street smarts is even playing your parents. For us, it was art to play your parents, to get what you want, to stay out later, to do something, right? It was a challenge. Now there's an expectation, and they just do it, right? And the kids today, um, oh, I would say to my son way back when, I'd say, hey, how was your night last night? I said, what'd you do? Where'd you go? And he'd say to me, you're starting to annoy me with all your questions. And I'd say to him, you're not the smartest kid in the world. I said, because if you knew how to play the game, what you'd say to me is, hey, Dad, had a great night with Sam. We were just hanging out watching TV, not doing anything, just chatting. And then, John, you've just answered all my questions. I have no more questions to ask you. But by not answering me, you're making me ask you more questions because I need to know that you're alive, that you're well, that you're doing good, that you're having fun. And they don't even know how to take that shortcut to answer 3 questions to have freedom. they'd rather, you know what I mean? They bang heads. We didn't do that with our parents. We did, but not to the same extent.
Well, that's because discipline was completely different. I mean,
Oh,
when
there is
I
no
was
discipline
growing up,
today.
yeah, when I was growing up and I did something that was not a great thing, my mother would say, "Wait till your dad gets home." And then he would grab his little belt, take it off his pants, and chase me around the kitchen table. And yeah, that's how I grew up. That's how my generation grew up.
And we have no
And,
video. We have no video in the house to record that then.
right, and so we learned that that's not the way to do it, and we raised your generations to not be as crazy as ours. But early on, you brought up something that really is the core to relationships and building. Again, one of the reasons I wrote this children's book is because I wanted to get my kids involved, my grandkids involved in reading. And if you think about it, if there's one thing that we as a generation can pass on to this younger generation is the reading of books. The reading, get off the reading on your cell phone and start picking up books and reading. Now, why is that good for us to make sure? And again, I'm just talking about me as a grandparent dealing with my 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 year olds. What is it? Well, every night we should be reading books to these kids. You should be, I should be, anybody should be reading, getting them involved. Why? Why do you want to read books with kids? Well, first of all, the best thing that reading a book to a kid, and again, a book like mine takes 20 minutes to read, so it's not a real long thing, is it creates a bonding time. It's a nice time for you to spend together with your grandkids one-on-one, much like when you were in your car driving them there, you talk to them one-on-one. Well, reading a book does the same thing. You picture having the kids sitting in your lap, you pull out a book. It gives you 20 minutes to really bond with them and create that thing of bonding with your family. Another reason that we need to all be reading books to these kids every night is it supports listening skills. Now, you and I both know as adults, listening skills is our best skill. I mean, you're a podcaster, you're a business owner. You have to listen to your customers. You have to listen to, who you're interviewing to make sure that you do the best. I have to listen to how we're going to build this site even better to people using the site. So listening skills are the best skills that we have today. And by starting really early on and reading books to your kids, it requires them to listen. So you're going to be building that skill and they don't even know it. So that's important why we should be reading to kids every single night. Another reason is it's great for the cognitive and language development. I mean, there's plenty of words in these books I don't understand. I got to go look them up. Well, obviously, when the kids see words that they don't understand, you can sit there and talk about it. And that's a great educational way. So it helps them do that. And another reason is attention span. These 2, 3, 4 year olds, they're bouncing off the wall all day long. Again, you have them key concentration, self-discipline, sitting there for 20 minutes, and it helps create that, which these are skills that they will use as they get older in life.
Yeah, well, I think a problem today is with all electronics, and I've seen it. I mean, I was on the beginning end of it coming in, and my kids didn't get cell phones till they were maybe 12 or 13 for security reasons, right? Today, I think you get them at 5 and 6, and however it works, right? But the reading thing is great. It's really more about it's also about the time spent with them, right? Because today, what I was going to say actually would have missed my mark was I see a lot of parents today that the electronics are babysitters, right? There might be less interaction with parent and kid in the time when they want to do something. I know at times I was on my phone when I probably shouldn't have been, but I think today it's way worse because it's everywhere. Grown-ups, adults, young people of all ages, elevators, park benches, buses, anywhere. Everyone's just walking with their heads down. So I think I think the reading thing is great. It's just so important, and it also for the relationship. If nothing else, just the bond that becomes from it. I remember reading in bed, and my daughter would be like, "Daddy, wake up," because you fall asleep reading at the end of a day. but it was always great, right? It was can't go wrong with that.
Well, it's really our role. It's necessary for us to teach children how to think, not what to think. They're going to learn what to think as they grow older, but we need to teach them how to think. And again, reading books teaches them how to think. Much like I'm sure everyone does at dinner time. How was your day? What'd you do? And all that. When you're reading a book, you know, you want to, before you even open up the book, you want to ask your child, what do you think is going to happen here? Because we got to teach them how to think. We got to teach them how to, here's the title of the book. What do you think is going to happen? And then as you're reading, who are the characters in this book? What is the setting? Get them to think. That's what we have got to do as we're passing this on. Another question to ask is, does anything in this book sound familiar to you? Again, interaction that you're going to have. And then obviously, like you did do at dinner, what is your favorite part of the book? Why is it your favorite part of the book? So all of this helps with the education as we're teaching our kids how to think. I don't know if the internet teaches our kids how to think. That's something that we have to do.
I think that's now we have AI to deal with, but that's a whole other topic. So I want to go back to the baby boomer side, and let's talk more about like just some about the baby boomers, right? So they're at the point now where, let's just say, tail end of the career, where they should be into doing other things. World's a little tough these days. Money could be a little tough. Do you know from baby boomers how it is out there, how they're doing? Uh, are they happy, not happy? Is the site helping them with some relief because they have the opportunity to see things they might not have thought of or heard of? Because you have everything, and I keep looking at the site, that's why I look that way, but you have like so much information there that it's amazing. Like the references, the resources are just, they're over the top.
Well, one of the reasons that we have a lot of business information on our site is there are still 12 million baby boomers who own businesses. That's most of the businesses in this world today. They're small businesses, they're big businesses. There's 12 million of us still owning businesses. That means there's 12 million of us still working out there, trying to build a business. And what's going to happen here is that this is going to be the greatest wealth transfer of any generation, between the silent generation and the baby boomer generation, passing on their wealth. What'll happen is the millennials are going to be the richest generation ever, because they're going to inherit all this money from us. But going back to the 12 million businesses are still owned by baby boomers. I'm sure, and if anybody goes in any of their neighborhoods, they're going to see that. So this is what a lot of people are still doing. They're still working. My wife, who is 73 years old, is in healthcare. She's an occupational therapist. She's still working, and
Good
she's
for you.
doing it. She's doing it because that's what she loves. Again, going back to the thought of, okay, when we're gone, who's going to remember? How are they going to remember us? Well, she loves helping people, and that's what she wants to do. She doesn't want to retire. She
But
wants to just.
it's not. So I'll just say to everybody at any age listening, if you love what you do, it's not work.
Oh, you're absolutely right.
Period. It's not work. You can get older, love what you do. Maybe you don't want to work the 5 days a week because you're tired on Mondays and Fridays, but you can go full days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, do a great job, fulfill your own self-worth need. And it's not work. It's only work when it's a chore and you don't like what you're doing.
Well, take a look at your industry, whether it's writing books or printing a lot of old guys, huh?
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I was going to say it before, but I didn't. When you talk about print and books, the electronic digital book reading, like the Kindle, that's gone down a little and books have gone up. So for everybody listening, books are still a great thing. They look great on your coffee table, next to your bed. I have stacks everywhere. I wish I read more of them. But books are definitely coming back for people. definitely. Back to the industry. Yeah, we are. I don't know numbers or statistics, but I'm going to say that there's a high double-digit percentage. I'm going to go maybe 50%, if not maybe more, that are in the getting on category. And some of them are good and could stay around a little longer. Some of them probably should find some other things to do. Some don't know what to do, where to do. A lot of nervous people, I think, when you get a little older. And, what do you do with all your time? Some people are time to move on because I've got to leave a space for a youngin. And others are like, well, the youngins will figure it out. I still love what I do. I'm not going anywhere. So it's like a
Yeah,
pretty mixed bag out there.
yeah, passion is a big thing here. And if you love what you're doing, you want to just keep doing it. And as far as retirement, I mean, just what's happened the last 3 months, you got to say, hey, can I really afford retirement?
Oh,
So, so those are all issues that we're dealing with.
those just come out of I, we won't go politics, but unfortunately, we've got some people that aren't thinking about how most people will be affected, right? And it's a little bit scary. I've seen it a few years ago. Some of the bigger lifetime stocks that people had counted on their whole lives, right? The company changes, and then boom, you're left scrambling again, and then it puts you into a whole other mindset and nerves and scariness. And what do you do?
Well, going back to so many of us still owning businesses, we got to pass them on. Okay, so what are we going to do? There's 12 million businesses out there that are still owned by baby boomers. Are they going to pass it on to their children? Do the children even want to do it? Do they have other passions that they don't want to do? They do. Or if you're going to pass it on to your child or your grandchild, do they have that same passion that you did to build it? When you think about it, if you are owning a business today and you want to pass it on to the next generation, it's like almost starting up a whole brand new business. You got different personalities, you got different wants, you got different ideas, and so one of the scary things about passing on your business is that there's a good chance it's going to fail. Even though you're giving it to your kids, if they are not as passionate as you are, when you think about it, why do businesses fail? And they fail because 42% of them fail because they don't have the right market or service. So you may have established a business, but as we see over the last 20 years, things changed. And a lot of it's driven by social media and electronics and all that. And so if the child doesn't figure out that they got the right market or service, almost half the businesses fail after that. 29% of businesses fail because they don't have enough capital. So if you're an entrepreneur, and one of the thing talking about what are baby boomers doing, yeah, many baby boomers who have retired are deciding they're going to open up their own business now. Go after their passion. This
Right.
is their chance now. They got a few extra bucks. Let's do this. I'm going to start my own business. But if you don't have enough capital, you got to figure if you're starting a business, you got to have at least 6 months of capital in there as if you have no sales. And if you don't have enough, it's going to fail. And then a quarter of them fail because they don't have the teamwork and communications. So go back to what we were talking about earlier, as the younger generations are growing up, do they have the communications? Can they talk to people? Can they interact with everyone? And so
And then when they go in, there's all those generation gaps, right? So when you got the late 20 something or early 30 in there with the 40s and the 50s and the 60-year-olds, um, again, it's the communication, different ways to talk. I think there's a lot of baby boomers that own businesses that would probably be better off at some point selling it, taking the capital, investing it, and having some capital to give to their kids who want to maybe start a business or leave them money rather than set them up in the business because they want them to go on with it, but it's not the right person and the businesses don't go anywhere.
you're absolutely right. And the one thing that's the thing that's going to be changing all this right now, and in your industry, it's got to be really changing, is this whole AI. And, AI is going to be the biggest change in our lifetime. We thought the internet was the biggest change, but this AI is going to be the next biggest change, and we're living it right now. So I would just make sure that anyone listening to this, that they throw themselves into AI right now. You got to understand how to use it, what to
Well,
do.
the printing industry, and I'm not saying anything that anyone doesn't know, is really an old industry, and it's managed predominantly by a bunch of old. It's going to sound awful, but a bunch of old white guys, right? That sit around, and I go to all these conferences, and there's a lot of them there, and I say to some of them, "Why aren't you bringing younger people from your businesses?" It's not about the money because you make bigger mistakes every day. It's about the lack of investment you're making in the person, making the person feel good, making the person want to be passionate about what they do, giving them excitement, right? And then it's about hiring people, and a lot of the older generation aren't really that good at hiring the younger generation. I had one person say to me, how come I can't keep young people in my business? What do I do? I said, well, my only suggestion to you is stop talking to them, because you engage in a conversation, you listen to what they say, or I think you're listening, I hope, but then you don't go back to them with anything. You have to be daily, right? I'm not saying sit with them, but you have to recognize who they are, what they do. You have to find activities that excite them. Our activities don't excite them the same way. It's not about us anymore. It's about passing the torch on and learning new ways to do it. And a lot in my industry, well, I'm just going to give you an example. I'm talking to some young person about possibly starting a young association. I wanted to start an association for young people where I would be at the top of it, but the whole board would be, let's just say, under 40. They would be in charge of all decisions and let them lead their way, and I would be there to guide them to not make any big steps or fall off the deep end. And I called up one fella and I said to him, "Hey, would you maybe be interested if this went farther?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah." And what he was doing is he was working in an association that in there they were trying to build up an area for young people. And he says, they don't get it. And I go, explain to me. And he said to me, well, it's really simple. He said, I went to my superior and said, I want to do this. And I was told, go to our marketing guy so everything we do has the same branding as our association. And the young fella said to me, the guy don't get it. We can't be the same branding as them because we're not part of them. We need our own branding. We need our own place. We need to attract our own kind. And the older folks didn't understand that. They wanted it to look the same, but it's not, it can't be the same. Because if it is the same, then everything else is the same. And you want to give them a place to have their own voice, and they're going to make their own mistakes along the way because we all make mistakes. But you can't tell them about the mistakes they're going to make before they make it. You could try to lessen it by by knowing what we know and then making some changes to minimize, but we've got to let them go also. And I see in a lot of cases that's not the case. We're telling them what to do, and that is the worst thing I think that could be.
But the way you started off with this, I don't want to call it rant, I want to call it an explanation,
Oh,
is
by the way, sorry, I get crazy in my industry all the time about that, because if my industry is going to survive, we need to get more people in. It's considered by many people not a great dying industry when it's not dying. It's the largest industry out there. Without print, by the way, the world doesn't function. Period. No instructions, no magazines, no directions, no anything. Go into a pharmacy. If there's no print, you can't take the drugs. You can't eat. You can't make the food. So I think we're in a number one thing, but I'm trying to help break the stigma of an old dying industry.
so what I was driving at is you kept going back to the older generations not listening to the younger generation, which goes back to what we were talking about. We got to teach them when they're young. That's the skill we all have to have when we're young. Listen, So if our generation has missed that, the next generation's got to get that.
Oh, my grandfather didn't listen to anybody, especially my grandmother. But but we all learn a little bit, and we all take some of what we learn down with us, right? So we've got to find more ways to engage with them, right? Is there any interaction? Do you have any gatherings that you put together with people from the site or events somewhere?
Not yet, but that's a great idea because you're right. we could probably have a great gathering of baby boomers to go after different categories in the site. Have a whole travel area, have a whole retirement and planning area, on and on. Play pickleball. Yeah, so
Yeah,
we could do that.
I was gonna say, because as I'm looking, perhaps is there a chat section?
There will be. In other words, we're a fairly new site. Our main goal was to make sure that we've got the content that will keep people on the site. I got a call from someone last week. She says, I came onto your site because I was listening to this podcast, but then I saw another podcast related to it and another, and she says, before I knew it, I was on your site for 3 hours. Yeah, that's what we want. Yeah, we want to be sticky and be educational and be worth it. So yes, our next phase is to do exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, I'm just going to read off some of the headlines, like the categories, like news, entertainment, lifestyle, relationship, health, travel, money. Those are so important in day-to-day lives that it's also a little, it's more important, I think, as you're getting a little older, because you're planning what you're going to do. You want to know what you can do. I think it's also great to know and to meet other people that are in the same boat as you, so to speak. I fish a lot, so everything is a lot of fishing reference.
Yeah.
But it's in the same boat as you. And there's a lot of people that walk around, I think, I'll say lonely, for lack of better wording, right? Not sure where to turn, or not even know that there's someone out there, a place where that they could find somewhere to get ideas on what to do. Even entertainment, whatever. Just go for a hike. Some people don't think about it. You could have ideas on where to go, and it doesn't have to. You don't have to do things that cost money, even. Right?
Yeah, when you think about it, that we all want to belong to a community, but you may have special interests that in your small town there may be one or two other people that like what you're doing. But you get onto the internet, you get onto a site like ours, and you can find people all over the country, all over the world, that have that same passion. And as you're growing older, you find that the passion is a key word. You want to do what you want to do. You're not stuck doing things you don't like anymore. You can do things you want to do. And so you're right. A site like ours gives you a chance to find those your tribe, so that you can all do it together.
How many? I mean, it's numbers, but how many people do you have a day that go on the site or look at it?
We have about 12,000 a day.
So that's pretty good.
Yeah, again, we're fairly new. So
How long has the site been up?
It's been up a little less than 2 years, but
Okay,
you
so
can
that's
see
pretty good.
we built a lot of stuff in the last couple of years, and so our goal is to let the world know who we are, because we feel that once you see who we are and what we offer, then you'll stick.
Are there other sites similar to yours?
Well, obviously there is AARP. That's the
Right.
big site that they get 35 million visitors a month, and so
And
AARP.
who's that? I don't know that.
Oh,
I'm
the
not see. I'm not searching for these sites yet. I got a few years ahead of me.
Oh, you do. It's the Association of Retired People,
Okay.
AARP. It's the big organization, that most baby boomers are belonging to. They have magazines, they have advertising, they have all kinds of things. So
I don't
they
even like. I don't even like the name of that.
are.
No, because retired, association of retired. It puts you it puts you in. I think the baby boomers and the older people today are still younger than what the age numbers are versus when our parents
Oh,
were of an
absolutely.
age,
Yeah.
or my grandparents maybe. Like I could tell you at at I don't want to be the reason that you choke, and I can't do the Heimlich from where I am. But but I think about I'm 58. I could stay out later than my kids all the time still. So that's good. But the activities that I do, like I said, I just came back from Dead and Company, and I was at the Sphere for 3 nights going at, because it's easy because of Dead every night. It's a different show. But the 3 nights that I was there, first of all, there are so many baby boomers there. I mean, it's their thing, but they're all rocking. The whole place was dancing and moving. But my parents at 58 were not running out to go see concerts. Right?
Right.
back then. Now they're 80, but they weren't going out to see concerts. We're doing more than our kids. We're doing more than our parents did when they were our age, right? So we've actually are younger. We're doing younger things at a older age. That makes sense. It's not coming out of my mouth the way it's working in my
No,
head.
no.
But
Yeah. If
that's
you
it.
ask
That's an age thing.
a 65-year-old, 75-year-old, they don't feel that old. We don't. I look at my grandparents when they were this age, they looked old.
He
Yeah.
looked
Well,
old.
we don't feel old. We don't feel old. So it's again, it's all because of all the health we've gone through, the things we've done. And so we're really probably 10 years younger than our parents were at these ages.
Minimum.
Yeah.
Minimum. I mean, I've taken my kids to see the Dead a couple shows at a time, and it's actually nothing better than being in a place that you loved and always went, and you have your kids with you, and they're related,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And then they get into it, and then they want to go. I mean, my kids used to like the Dead, Fish, and Dave Matthews. That's like, okay, great. If you could find things with your kids to do, right? That's another thing. You have to find, first of all, you have to find stuff to do with your wife when you're younger. So when you get older, you have something in common and you could do it. That's probably a whole other conversation in another category. But if you find interest and passions with your kids, it's stuff that you can do with them forever. I mean, I fish. My son says, "Hey, well, I'll go fishing. Can we leave at 10?" Because he doesn't want to get up so early. But he'll come fishing. My daughter and my son-in-law will come fishing. The dog will come fishing, and I'm thrilled. And I'll go at 10 o'clock. But if you can get on the boat with them for 3, 4, 5, 6 hours and hang out and fish, and when you're doing that stuff, all the other stuff comes up that you want to talk about because it's not like you're sitting at a table bouncing questions off them, right? It's not like an inquisition. But when you're with them and you're hanging out, you could slide in any question you want. And one thing I realize is when the youngins are relaxed and busy doing stuff, they'll answer you. If they have too much time to think about what you're asking, they don't want to get into that question period, right? I mean, I don't even think I like to be asked too many questions by my parents. But like I said earlier, I answered them so that I can get to do what I want to do. It's way too funny.
So
But
one of the things I realized over the last couple of weeks is that where we think we are creating memories for these kids, think about when you were a kid. How much stuff do you really remember? There may be just one event or two events, but you don't remember the day in, day out thing, the love of your parents or your love of your grandparents. As long as it was positive, you don't have these memories. So, we're working so hard to create all these things. Like I got two of my grandkids this weekend because their parents are going to the Kentucky Derby. So
cool.
they've got, they're dropping their kids off with us for 4 days. Yeah, so we're going to be doing something every single day. Yeah,
All
we got it
day.
all planned out. But the question is, in 10 years from now, what would they really remember? I think they just remember your attitude, your kindness, or if you really screw up. But you don't have a lot of memories, and so that's one of the things that's the bummer about as you get older is you think you're creating all these great memories, but they're really the only memories that you have.
Yeah, well, you know what? But certain things, I mean, I guess, yeah. Well, my grandmother won't remember because she's not here. She can't remember anymore. But as long as I have those, remember my mother dropping me off at my grandmother's house, Friday nights and sleeping there and wake up Saturday morning and going into the living room and I wasn't allowed to sit on the couch because it was covered in plastic. But I was allowed to sit on the floor and, she'd bring me breakfast and toast and cereal watching cartoons. That doesn't happen today either, right? Like all those things. But I think the memories we create are not the dinners at home, but the going and the doing things, right? So like it's really funny. I have on all my business cards, everything says founder and fisherman because my two passions were printing and fishing. But with my card, when it says fisherman, I will tell you that over the years, every time I hand somebody my card, everybody has a story about a father, a brother, a grandmother, a grandfather, even if they don't fish, took them fishing, or they saw a fish, or they went somewhere, and the conversation that comes from it, and then the smiles, and you see them lighting up because they are remembering what was done with them. So like it's important for the people today with kids to know you need to do those things so your kids remember. We don't think they remember, but they remember certain things and important things like that. The good and the bad. So you want to minimize the bad, right? And leave more of the fun, because that's really what it's all about. I mean, I'm telling, I just said, when someone starts talking, I was talking with a lady, starts talking about her father who took her fishing, and like she was remembering all this stuff. And at the end, what was nicest was she says, "Oh my God, thank you for the conversation. I remembered, your card made me remember something." And like I get goosebumps because with everything else in life and what goes on, it's like I said at the beginning, they taught us that we don't have to work that many days. Maybe if you're not working that many days, you have more time to create more memories, right? And we got to remember that it's not always about us. But first of all, I think when you make the decision to have kids, you've taken on a responsibility to, educate, to teach them, and to make sure up until a certain point you're leading them in the right direction and doing the best that you can for them. Fortunately, it doesn't always work that way with a lot of parents, but our kids will become, what they learn from us. Some will get away on their own and be successful and learn to do great things, but it's what we teach them.
You bring up a very good point in that the grandparents' involvement with the parents when it affects the grandkids. And there's a lot of boundaries there that cause issues. Many times grandparents are not welcome into the kids and how they raise their kids. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons for that. One is, as a grandparent, I may not have liked the spouse you married. Okay? So that causes all kinds of issues in the relationship that you have with your grandkids. You know, I may have given you unsolicited advice by telling you what to do. Okay, our generation, kind of told their kids what to do. The newer generations don't like that. You know, you're disrespecting the boundaries. You may be dropping into their house unannounced. You cause all kinds of problems. From one generation to the other, and these things that push grandparents away. Okay, and a lot of it's our fault, but it happens. By undermining the parents' authority, by challenging what they're teaching their kid. I mean, if I did that with my kids, they'd throw me out of the house. You just can't do that anymore. Um,
No, but I also think, and I think as it goes, it could be a little better. But I know from when I had kids to when my parents had me, it was different times. It was different ways of thinking. I acknowledge that. I think we as if we're having kids and they're having kids, we just have to be respectful and remember. I always say this: treat people the way you want to be treated. So if you don't like people just coming into your house unannounced, you can't do it to others, right? Simple things like that. You have to remember to ask your kids if it's okay to do certain things, maybe, because it is the parent. And if our kids, for instance, didn't like something that we did, oh, God forbid if we try to say the same thing or do that to their kids, right?
oh,
Then
absolutely.
then the fork and the knife goes in the table and the guard goes up. And they're not wrong, because we also have to know that we're learning as we go.
Yeah, the grandparents may have a tendency to play favorites, or manipulate the siblings. That causes it. I have my favorite grandkid, but I'm not going to tell you. I don't even tell my wife who it is because you don't want to cause those issues. But that causes that. We try to control our grandkids by giving them gifts, vacations. Parents don't like that. We shouldn't be doing that. We as we get older, we may start to have a lack of empathy. We may have had a lot of empathy when we were younger, but as we're getting older, we may not have that empathy, and these little kids need that. And so that may be doing so. They're grandparents may require the kid to comply and respect them, and that causes issues. So there's all kinds of reasons that there's boundaries between grandparents and their kids and their grandkids are being caused, and we all have to be cognizant of that if we want to be part of these families.
Oh, well, it's funny. So we started off talking about like just baby boomers, went a little bit of print, and now it's a lot about the kids. And it's so true because they are going to be who we create. So we have to think a little bit more maybe about what we say, what we do, and where we guide, right? To put them in the right place. But more importantly, we have to think about what we say sometimes now, because the world is in a different place. And the way we might have thought things should be, or we might not agree with the way things are, but we have to own it and work from it, right? Like I see in my industry, we'll go to print for a little bit, but in the industry, so there's like digital transformation coming on. There's HR and the way you talk with people and the things you do. Used to hear a long time ago, well, I paid my dues, and until you pay your dues, it's going to take a long time for you to get up there. Who the fuck came up with that line? Right? Paid my dues. Who said you had to work 6 days a week and one day was for free if you want to be president one day? I lived by that only to realize at some point how ridiculous that is, right? You'll move up by your attitude. You'll move up by the work you do. You'll move up by the success you have in what you do. You'll be noticed for your accomplishments. It's for your actions. It's not about the amount of hours that you put in, because some people could get more done in a few hours and others in longer hours. So it's really interesting. And in the print industry, we need, in the print industry, we need younger people to come in, right? And we need to bring them in. And I see, say, if you talk about a salesperson in print, any salesperson, it's 12 to 18 months when you bring somebody new in to teach them, onboard them, get them to get the hang of it, get up, build their business and start to roll. Too many people after 6 months are getting too anxious that the numbers aren't there yet and it's costing them money. And then they pull the trigger and end it. And I'll reference just older people. We need to know that it's not the old days of people will work for commission only, draw against commission. Nobody's going to build your business for free for you. You have to pay to invest. And that's part of that's part of what entrepreneurs do. That's part of our investment. It's part of our risk. Train someone for 6 months, 12 months, they get a better job somewhere else. I always used to say, if people get a better job and they earn more money as an owner, it's not my place to stop them. If they can put more money on their table, that's what they're here to do. That's what I'm going to do. So you got to find ways to work with them, work around it, and have a better understanding, because it's not always about the money. But if you could build a good environment for people where they feel they're heard, they feel they're doing, and they're listened to, they'll stay. And then eventually, the money comes if you're in the right place that has the money. But it's really it's in the print, it's dirty business. Was everything you touched, you got dirty. You turn the machines, you put ink in the inkwell, and at the end of the day, you got everything's grimy, paper cuts. Now you're loading paper into the press, you're pushing buttons, there's inks and canisters, you go into the folder, you put the paper in, there's 200 presets. Beginning of the press is a big screen on there. It looks like a video game. The technology has boosted the industry. Our industry, the old people in our industry haven't done a great job of marketing our industry to young people even. It's like it's a bigger mindset out there in general. And I'm trying to figure out how to navigate around it and how to get people to promote young people, talk and give them the chance, and know that it takes a little longer than it did back then. right? It's and I think even on the website, maybe you have a section for business owners who could discuss different topics or issues and share them, because a lot have the same. I think a lot of people might be able to learn from one another on what to do. And that's why I'm part of a lot of different groups, and you know, I need to read more, but I'm not a great reader because I have a little ADHD. But sitting and listening to people with the same interest, I could sit all day and listen to what they have to say when people are giving real life stories and experiences. I think it's wonderful. It's wow, 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 wow. So just quickly, you wrote another book, The Secrets of Retailing: How to Beat Walmart. Just I'm always curious how to beat Walmart. That's a little bigger than your other book. So what's that one about? So what actually, let me ask you, before you became a baby boomer at this stage, what were you doing in your life before?
Well, before, I had an internet company that became the premier business-to-business site on the internet, where we sold in case quantity to small businesses all around the world, shipped into all 50 U.S. states, about 44 countries. Our customer base were the moms and the pops who are surviving and thriving as the chains. So we had all kinds of general merchandise product that we sold by the case, and then obviously they sold it by the piece. And so that's how we started that business. And as I was building that business, I was getting like 30 phone calls a week on how do I do this and what do we do? What do you do for that? So that's why I wrote the book, The Secrets of Retailing: How to Beat Walmart. It's a 15 chapter book, and each chapter addresses different things for entrepreneurs and small businesses. So, for instance, there's one chapter on how do you hire people. You're talking about hiring a lot. How do you do that? Another on how to market it. How do you market yourself on the internet? How do you market yourself in the retail space, in the local marketplaces? How do you find products? How do you negotiate? And the last chapter, chapter 15, is how do you exit your business? So that's why I wrote that book, because I saw that there was a need of entrepreneurs and small businesses out there that just need a little help in figuring out how to build a successful business. So that's what I did before I got involved with babyboomer.org.
Cool. So actually, I was going to say, being on the internet when you were would be cutting edge.
Yeah, we were one of the first back in 2000.
So so that gives you some great topics to talk about when you're talking to young people about the internet and where it came from. I mean, they don't even know about like the what do you call it? There was the fax machine
Yeah,
before the fax machine was the telex. Was that the telex machine?
something like that. Yeah,
I
yeah.
forget. I don't remember what they call it anymore. There's so many. Now all they know is phone, and flip. And for us, watching Star Trek and all those other shows, we've watched all this technology almost come to fruition, right? The
Oh,
robots,
absolutely.
RoboCop. When I think back to one of the Schwarzenegger movies, and I think back to Star Trek or the Jetsons, even now we have driverless cars. I think in Japan they're working on like transporters that are, well, drones for people. That's what th're called now. So it's pretty. World's come a long way, but I think the baby boomers have a lot to offer. I think you, whoever, have to find ways to connect um, with the younger generations and just kind of bridge the gap a little. So it's not like it's not a he said, she said, or I told you, or what was a big line I used to hear? It's either my way or the highway,
That's true.
right?
Yeah.
You're living under my roof, you'll do it my way. That's when every little kid packs his bag and leaves for the first time and wants to run away. So many things. Wow. So yeah, no, really good site. The conversation on the kids, really, I think that's the most important right now, because the kids are the future of what's going to be, and it's their world in front of them.
Well, if we were to step back a second and say, how can we influence this younger generation today? And I encourage all of your listeners to start asking their kids this question every night. When you're at dinner time, you ask them, how was your day? But One of the questions you should ask your little kids, whether they're 3, 4, 5, 6, or 10, is what did you do today that was nice to someone else? If you think about that, if we could get the entire world starting to talk about what did you do today that was nice to someone else. Now, the first time you say that to a little kid, they're not going to understand what you mean. Okay? But if you start doing it every night, and giving them some examples, what did you do nice? All of a sudden, these little kids, they're going to start to open up doors for people. They're going to walk an old lady across the street. But think about if we could get this generation to be thinking about how can you reach out and help someone else at the young age of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they carry that on. When they're running the businesses of tomorrow, that'll be part of how they approach everyone.
Never mind businesses. If you're doing that, you're teaching the kids, and hopefully they grow up and they remember and they do just what it is to be kind and respectful to somebody else. Listen, I remember actually one of the good things, if you talk about the internet or YouTube, I remember seeing some videos where they were talking about one kid who was having a tough time in school and or wasn't very popular or something, and then one day he started opening the doors for everybody, and he would stand there and he'd hold the door, and slowly but surely everybody would say thank you, everybody would say how was your day to him, and then before you know it, the whole school was talking to him, and then the whole school was kind of talking because that became a major thing. And it takes zero effort to do that, right?
You're right.
I walk out of elevators. If I see there's people coming in, I'll just put my arm out to hold the elevator door. Not that my arm's holding the door. The door's not going to move because that's how the elevators are made today. But it's just more kindness. And if someone's coming or I'm opening a door, I kind of smile internally, that I did something good. I'll even say to someone jokingly, like, well, I did my good deed for the day. And then they'll chuckle and we'll get a laugh and everyone will move on with a smile as opposed to a frown.
Yeah, it comes down to when you love, you will teach others to love. So when you help, you will teach others to help. So you just did a great story for that.
Wow. Okay, we're going to stop it on that one because I can't top that after. And that was a great line, right? It's like teach a man, give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach a man to fish and feed him for life. So, but I like the idea of, teach them to help and then, everybody gets help down the road. It's, wow, wonderful, wonderful thing. Cool. So, first of all, I didn't even know, honestly, where we were going to go in this conversation today because it all came about rather quickly, but I thought it was a pretty good topic to have. And then we went a little sideways longer with the kid thing. But I think that was actually probably the most important thing because the kids are the future. And we have to remember no matter what, we need to do the right thing. We need to teach them the right thing. We need to say the right thing because kids will copy what they hear and see. And I will say this, it is very cute when you hear your 5-year-old go, fuck off, because he's copying you and you chuckle, but it's not so cute when he's 17 and he's saying it a different way. Right? So we got to be a little careful because cuteness is great at the beginning. Is there anything before we jump that you'd like to end with yourself?
Just come to our site at babyboomer.org. We'd love to have you.
Cool. When I post the podcast, I will put the website on it as well for everybody to go to. I also do a little bit of marketing beforehand, which we will keep posting because I think it's a great site. And I haven't hit that stage where I'm looking for it, but honestly, since we spoke the other day, it's been open on my computer the whole time, and I just keep poking around. For myself, but also when I bump into other people that I can make some suggestions and recommendations because I know that everybody could use a little help today. Doesn't matter who you are, right? Everybody could always use a little help. So, Mark, it was a super pleasure to meet you, and I appreciate your time this morning. To everybody listening, I hope you enjoyed the conversation. As always, I hope you made it to the end. I know that everyone's really busy these days, and it takes time, but I'm thrilled today. Just to talk about the future, talk about kids, talk about the old people in our industry of what we need to do to get the younger people involved, but it's a bigger conversation. Again, anybody has anything they want to talk about, topic could be anything, as long as it's good, I'm happy to talk, reach out to me. I wish everybody a great day, and we'll see you back here soon. And Mark, again, thank you so much.